Okay guys, so the first step that you want to do is go find yourself a car that you want to 3D print. And, obviously you can use this for anything in HO scale, but since we're talking about cars today, that's what we're going to do. You can see I have a collection here, and I will actually post a link to this collection in the description of the video below. So it saves you quite a bit of work of having to find these on your own. You can just go to the collection, download them. All these are free. And so you just pick a car that you want to use, and we'll show you what the next steps are. Me being a fan of the Challenger, we're probably going to find that one and print it. But you just go in here to any of these cars that you want. You can take a look at it. You can see that this comes actually in 3 pieces. You have wheels, body, or complete all together. We're going to end up doing separate like this because it prints better. Hit download all files. You'll get the download. When that's done, you'll see it in here, and that's the first step. While we're at it, since this is, judging by the taillight style, roughly a 2015, and if you want, you can click this button up here and actually view it. What we're going to do is Google Dodge Challenger length. So roughly 198 inches, just like that. We're going to need that here in a little bit because we're going to have to do some converting to scale. Your next step, while we're here, open a new browser. You want to Google HO scale converter, HO model scale converter. Yeah, any of these worked. It works out pretty nice. This one's an easy one. This model buildings one. Scale conversion calculator. In here, you put in 187th. There's your scales right there. So 187th. Real size, 198 inches. Hit the inches button. There's your centimeters right there. That's important because we need this in millimeters. Move that decimal one spot to the right, you have your millimeters, and that's going to come up here in just a second. The first thing we're going to do then is we're going to open our software. This is free software. It's a previous project I was working on. We're going to go find the one that we downloaded. And so here we'll open just the body to start with. See, that's kind of small. So what we're going to do quick is we're going to actually rotate this sideways, and then scale. You can see in millimeters. This green Y right here is only 16. So this is where this comes in. We want 57.81. There we go. There's the scale. The percentage is 345.79%. And that's important. And you'll see why here in a minute. Next, we need a wheel. You can see that's super tiny over there. So, right, we talked about scale. 345.79. You can copy that. Hit this. There's your wheel. Just like that. Oh, let me do that. Now, we're going to copy that, paste 3 more. So there's the start of our Challenger. Because it's resin printing, you have to think about a lot of different things. Resin printing actually prints this way. So it will actually print from the bottom here of the carb, which is actually really where the build plate is, down this way. To be safe and not cause problems where that pulls off the surface, you need to take these and angle them. So you're going to want to rotate this up. Do this so you can see these curves here. You're going to want to rotate it about 45 degrees up. And you could probably get away with maybe 40. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. Good enough. Okay. Now the wheels, these are always a difficult print, just because of the way that they're designed. We are probably going to do about the same thing. We're going to throw those all at a 45 like this. All right, before we get to our next step, we're going to kind of arrange these. I like to stagger a little bit because you will create less pull on the build surface and you have a lower risk of those pulling off. Select all your models, come over here, choose medium supports, hit plus platform, and there's some immediate supports. Switch to the light, and what we're going to do next is come under here, zoom in a little. We're going to add some supports in various places. Supports are important. They help keep this from pulling off of the build plate, having problems, etc. So you can see we just added all of those supports on there. These will eventually break away when you are done printing, and we'll go through all of those steps together too. But I like to make sure there's plenty. You don't want to super overload it, or you will have problems printing. By the way, in case you're curious, how I'm moving this around is click and hold the middle mouse button to move around, click and hold your right mouse button to rotate your view, and then that way you have your left clicker here for when you need anything. Okay, and we'll look at all of this here in just a second. You'll see why. Let me do this. Sometimes the camera angles get a little odd when you are working underneath like this, but that's okay too. All right. Supports also help keep this from warping, which is another key important thing here. So if you come out and look, there's what those look like supported. Now, onto the actual car itself. The red areas that you see mean drastic overhangs where it's going to have some problems and need some support so that it won't sag. So I usually will add in quite a few extra here. You can see underneath this lip, just like that. And then we need to come over here and hit up these wheel wells, front and back. To be safe, we'll go ahead and throw one in there. Let's go to the other side. And you can see when adding these how they will bridge themselves automatically off of each other, which is super nice. All right, let's look at that. To be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and add some across the front here, just so that we have some decent structure holding. We're going to add a few right here. We'll have to cut those out with a knife when we're done. All right, here is rear view mirror. Rear view mirror. Add a couple on there because we don't want that breaking off. Your next step then is use the slider over here, drop it all the way down. This shows you every single layer, and you can step these up one by one if you feel like it. But the main thing is you're watching for when blue items form like this. You want to make sure that they're at least in a layer, just like that, touching supports, or you're going to have a problem with your print and it will get stuck. And we have the same there. And then you can just watch this build out. If you look here, right when the rims start to form, you see that there's a part here that isn't being touched, and that's a problem. covered. All right, keep going. That looks good over there. Let's focus on the rest of the car. Nothing popping up there that was worrisome. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna come back over here. I'll call this Challenger, and then I usually throw in there supported. That way I know what it is. And then on to the next piece of software. Because of the 3D printer I have, this software slices better. Slicing is basically what it is called when you're setting up all the layers. So let's see, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna go find the one that we worked on, just like that. Looks fine. We're gonna hit slice. It's gonna ask us, where do you want to save it? I have an export folder here where I like to save everything. Hit save. This runs through and tells us what it's gonna do and how much material and how long. I'm gonna plug in my flash drive. You can see that pop up there. I'm gonna move it out of the way. 3 hours, 12 minutes. It's gonna use 14.9 milliliters of liquid. Here's my flash drive. You can see this is a different format, PWMA. We're gonna come back over, find the one that we just exported, and I usually sort these by date modified so they're always at the top. And that's about it. Eject your flash drive. You always want to do that safely, so come down here, eject, and we're gonna go down to the 3D printer and show you the next steps. Okay guys, we're down at the printer. This is the resin printer. This is one of my FDM printers, and the other one happens to be over here. This is a closet that I have that is the only room in the house that has tile, and it's a good idea because resin can be pretty messy if you're not careful because it's liquid. So this is what the resin printer looks like. One of the things that you need to do is learn how to level. I've already done that, but basically loosen the screws up here. Sorry, you can't see it very well. You place a piece of paper under there, let it go down. There's some steps on the screen to do that, and retighten your screws once it's down there. We're not going to do that to save some time. If you guys ever need a more in-depth tutorial on that, let me know. This is what the resin looks like. We're just going to use gray. It paints easier. You always want to shake it first to make sure it's well shaken, not stirred. Kidding. Pour into your vat. That's what this is called. We won't need obviously all of this. When we're done, we will pour this all back in. But it's a good amount. That way if there's problems or we need to redo it or we want to do a couple at once, we could do a couple at once. All right, slide that in, tighten your screws down. It's very important that you have this over the top. This blocks, it's a UV filter. This blocks UV light because this is UV cured. That's how this works. Take your flash drive. We're gonna plug it in over here. And then, you know what? Let me grab the camera here so you guys can see. All right, we're gonna go to print. You'll see it will start to show all of the different prints, different ones I've done, test ones. There's some really neat ones in here, by the way. And we are looking for the one we just added. There it is. Challenger, just like that. All you gotta do, hit go. If you look there at the bottom, 3 hours, 59 minutes. Considering that it's kind of late, we'll continue this video tomorrow. Also, in case you're curious, this is what it looks like. There's not a whole lot of exciting things to watch until it's actually pretty much done. There you go. Alright guys, print is done. We're going to turn this off temporarily, pull the flash drive, just so we don't risk spilling anything on it. Let's get the lid off here. We set it around in here. Alright. One thing that I always do is always have just a little bit of rubbing alcohol, that's 91% rubbing alcohol, in a tub. There's our print. You're going to want to basically just kind of dip. It'll help run off a little bit of excess resin to start with, and then we're going to put it in there, which is the actual washer. But first, we need to get it off of here. So use your metal putty knife here. I usually hold it down like this and just gently kind of work under the edges, just like that. So there's one of the wheels. There you go. There's another. There's another. There's a lot of background settings that go into making sure that these don't stick too well, because if they do, good luck getting it off, and you're probably going to break your print in the process. And if they don't stick well enough, then they're going to fail and actually be stuck to the bottom of the vat in there. There we go. All right, there's all 4 wheels. Those have some pretty nice detail to them. You'll see them a little bit better here after we get them washed, but they look nice. There's even tire tread that you can see in the detail. That's why I love resin printing. All right, next tricky part. I usually start at a corner like that. We're going right under. It's okay that a few of these supports snap and bend and break. There's nothing wrong with that. Excuse my arm in the shot. All right, there we go. Overall, not bad. Looking at the side of the body, here, I'll bring it closer. I don't see warping, which is a good thing. It's nice details. It'll be even nicer once it's washed. So you're gonna grab your tray here. I'll bring it out here so you can see. You just set these in here. They don't have to be perfect. They're gonna move around with the washing process. And then back in. One thing I always have around me is a paper towel. You're going to need it for your hands. Remember my comment I made a little bit ago that this will burn your skin if you're not careful, if you have it in direct sunlight. So you want to be sure to wipe it off and then go wash it off right away. All right, there's a switch back here to turn this on. What you guys can't see, I don't think, very well, because it's hidden by this, is right back here is a screen, and that screen controls how long the wash process is. We're going to do 10 minutes, and hit start, and then it'll start washing it. It spins it basically in both directions over and over again, and that'll help wash off all the excess resin. Now, while that's running, the next step is I always clean this quick. So let me set that over to the side. We need just a couple of these older paper towels. Usually a couple more dips in here. I use the putty knife to just do a scrape. You can kind of see that there. It helps get off any of the excess resin, and then we're just going to wipe it. You can see it looks oily. It feels oily on your skin. I can feel it on my fingers. Oops. All right, pretty much just like that. Looks good. and you can slide that back on and you're done. We'll come back here in just a second when this is done washing. I usually wipe this off too, and show you the drying process. That's with the device over here in the corner you can't see very well, and that'll be the next step, and we'll be back in a second. Okay guys, that's done. I'm gonna pull it out. Usually just kind of angle it. Sorry, you can't see that very well. Angle it a little bit like that. And that lets you just have some of that rubbing alcohol run off. I think I mentioned it, but I don't remember. That's a 91%. Oops, sorry, I'm not being very good with the camera today. That's 91% rubbing alcohol. And the recommended one is like 93%. The difference is hardly anything, and but there's a significant cost difference. I usually grab one of the paper towels, and we'll usually wipe some of the tops and sides just in case there's any things on there. One thing to watch for is right there. You can see that the mirror broke off and is actually on the supports, so we'll fix that. But overall not bad. Dab some rubbing alcohol. Don't know if you can see this very well, but there is tire tread and decent rim details. Pretty happy with that. The next step is to cure it, so we will cure it over here in that in just a second. But first, I'm going to show you how we fix the mirror. So I usually take some scrap filament, and I'll get, you don't need much in this case, get a couple drops like that of the resin on there. Come back over to the car. We're gonna dot it just like that. Now what we're gonna do is I have a portable UV light right here. We're gonna hold this in place, throw the UV light on it just like that. This is one of those steps why it's important to not have it on your fingers, because this will hurt. There, just like that. So that works out pretty decent. What we're gonna do then, let me put this away. So I'm gonna take a hobby knife, very carefully try and cut those. There we go. That's what I wanted. Just like that. There. So now we don't have to worry about that. Same with the other side. Don't have to worry about that. Usually bend them a little bit, break them off. And next step is onto curing. Anywhere that you still have rubbing alcohol when you go to cure, we'll leave behind some white residue. Since we're going to paint this, it's not that big of a deal, but it's worth noting. But like you can see, I don't know if you can see very well in there, but nice headlight detail. These are supports that we put in. We will cut those out with a hobby knife. It works pretty easy. I'll just show you. Just come in here and just pop them with the end of the knife like that. Just blow on it a little bit. In there. Just like it should be. Okay, let's cure it. So for curing, I'm going to drop this back down out of the way. We're done with this. So this works pretty much the same. Lift this up. Oops. There we go. We're going to put this on the turntable in there. That's a solar powered turntable. If you're doing clear resin, you don't want to cure it for too long, but since we are not doing that, and this is not clear resin, oops, there we go. We're going to set it for the max time of 6 minutes and start, and that's pretty much it. Show you what it's like when it's done. Next steps after that are painting. Alright, this is done curing. We're going to lift, grab our pieces. Actually, turn that off. It's touch sense, so I don't want to keep grabbing it. Excuse me here for bumping the camera a few times. Like I said, this is a closet, so it's real tight. Here's the car. Here's the 4 wheels. Set this down, we'll take a look at those, make sure they look okay. Quick judge of that. Looks like they are pretty well done. Yeah. Nice details in there. You see the white that's there. We take a brush, grab that here. We just generally take a brush, brush that out. Just like that. That's just extra leftover crumbs basically from the washing process. So there we go. Next step is to paint them. Real quick, let me see if I can show this to you. Decent details, tread, there you go. Alright, before we paint, next step is to take off all of the supports. I always recommend you kind of busting these out, very slow and gentle, and you want to peel back away this way. That way you don't really scratch anything going on, but you can kind of press with your thumbs and your fingers, and see it'll come out just like that. This is trash. This is why, see how there's some scrapes from the supports right there, but overall that came out pretty decent. There's a hair on it. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it even says Dodge in there, which is pretty neat. So there's the car body. The wheels are kind of the same. You just want to be real gentle with it. We'll probably end up doing these differently. Here. I'm just using the edge of my thumbnail. There we go, just like that. And there's your wheel. Not bad.